Here we go. AFC, NFC championship games. It's Championship Sunday. Who will advance to the Super Bowl? And we've got more coaching hires and some very interesting coaching interviews as well around the NFL as an insane coaching carousel spins on today's NFL Six Pack.
This is Locked On's NFL Six Pack. 6 bold takes from 2 guys who just flat out know football. NFL experts Matt Williamson and Brian Peacock bring pure NFL talk. Great takes, no fluff, just honest football talk. Crack one open. It's NFL Six Pack on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the NFL Six Pack. Brian Peacock and Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, and thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Oh, man, a lot to get into on today's show, so I'm excited to jump in here. It is brought to you today by FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode every game day during the NFL playoffs. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, we're going to preview and make picks for the AFC, NFC championship games, but every day we're getting lots of news and things get very interesting in the NFL as we see 10 new teams taking shape and other teams that don't even have head coach or GM openings are changing things with coordinators. And I can remember a time where there was more movement as far as coaching, and probably means that teams with a lot of continuity are going to be ahead of the game in the 2026 season. That's the vibe I get because there's so much change going on. A third of the league just in upheaval right now in the NFL going into the new season. I'm sure some of those teams will figure it out quickly and some will not. The Baltimore Ravens have their new head coach, Matt. And today's Six Pack, we're going to talk head coach for the Ravens. We're going to talk assistant coaches around the NFL. Dallas Cowboys got their defense coordinator. And then we're going to spend some time on the AFC and NFC championship games. We're going to break down when the Patriots have the ball, when the Broncos have the ball, what it looks like with Seahawks and Rams, which are very familiar opponents for the third time this season, when each of those teams have the ball for our Six Pack. But it starts in Baltimore and it felt like this is the way it was going to go, but Jesse Minter was supposed to go continue his interviews, which usually means that, that coach isn't the #1 candidate if a team lets a guy fly away from an interview and go interview somewhere else. But Jesse Minter informed yesterday the Cleveland Browns that he was actually not going to interview with them after all. And then hours later, you find out, okay, he actually is going to be the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. And so speaking of continuity, some continuity as far as defensive scheme here, Jesse Minter and the Baltimore Ravens. He is their new head man. How do you feel about this hire for the Baltimore Ravens going forward with Jesse Minter?
That's a great point about the continuity of the defensive scheme. And I think that is big, because I've gone through that when I was with the Browns. I'm analyzing that right now with the Steelers. Like, do they really have to switch what, TJ Watt's going to do, et cetera, et cetera. I love this fit. And I was a big Minter guy. I really don't think the Chargers defense is that talented. I mean, like, Derwin James is a good player. Is he one of the best 20 defensive players on the planet? Maybe. I mean, who are the difference makers? And they consistently were really, really hard to play against. So in terms of scheme, understanding today's NFL, getting the most out of talent, I think he's an A to an A+. All these are tough to comment on because I've never talked to Jesse Minter. He doesn't have any clue who I am. But by all accounts, so this is third-hand information basically, or second-hand information if you're lucky, that he's very impressive and very buttoned up and well-spoken and smart and should be able to handle the media and the big picture stuff and is probably more than just a defensive coordinator. Wig and I did our Locked On NFL earlier, and he mentioned the big rumor now is Kingsbury is the offensive coordinator. I can see that,
Yeah, I like it more if we were talking about a college team hiring.
Yeah, me too.
At this point, he wouldn't be one on top of my list, but he is interviewing in a lot of places. There's a lot of very interesting coordinator and coach interview hires, and I think it got more interesting this morning with a couple of names that I want to bring up in a second, considering the Bills.
Definitely got more interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned Derwin James. I find this fascinating too because of that scheme. And you got, you go from Derwin James, who's a unique, bigger safety who can do a lot on the defensive side of the ball and is very versatile. And then obviously Kyle Hamilton is kind of like that guy, the poster child of that player in that scheme now that Jesse Minter can run with the Baltimore Ravens. And you saw Mike McDonald, and they've actually moved up in the second round to draft Nick Emanwari for the Seattle Seahawks, which is paying off big time. And he should be considered one of the defensive rookie of the year candidates in Seattle. And so I wonder if we're going to see more teams trying to get a piece of this scheme. And we're going to see the popularity of this. Like we already know nickel is the new base, but essentially it's like the Seahawks are 100% in nickel. Like that, you go big personnel, we go nickel because we got a 220-pound safety who could still cover if you're going to throw the ball, but we're going to defend the run that way as well.
BP, I think we're going to talk about this a ton these coming months with free agency, with the draft. I mean, it's funny. I was just talking to my buddies around here. Pitt has a kid like that that's going to the Senior Bowl that they're like, oh, where's he going to get picked, Matt? He looks like he's a tweener. I'm like, no, this is the time to be that guy, the MMR dude. I mean, everybody wants
the linebacker tweener era is upon us.
This would have been bad 10 years ago. It's great now. I mean, even like the branches and Petries that are a little more corner-esque. I always tell people they're the lamp that brings the room together. And the whole key and where Minter shines, and this is a McDonald thing when we talk about Seattle, is every defense wants to live in nickel, as you mentioned, no matter you sub out in and out. And it's like basketball. If you're going to put your bigs out there, I'm still in nickel. If you're going to put your point guards out there, I'm still in nickel. And I'm going to play too high, and I'm not going to get crushed versus a run. And if I can not get crushed versus a run, play too high, and live in nickel with speed, I need a Kyle Hamilton. I need a Derwin, and Minter's at the top of the league in terms of doing these things.
Yeah, that is interesting. You want to be the best, the fastest, best coverage 11 guys you can be while still stopping the run.
Yeah, don't get killed in the run game.
Yeah,
but I can't allow it getting beat. Yep. And you play more cover 4. Your safeties will like trigger for the run game. They're not immediately going backwards, But that's what the league wants.
Speaking of defenses and coverages, let's go to some other coaching news around the NFL. And we have, by the way, great hire. I do like the hire for Jesse. The Baltimore Ravens. I think that's a really nice fit. We'll see how the offense comes together, which is going to be the big question around your MVP caliber quarterback there in Lamar Jackson. The Dallas Cowboys have found their defensive coordinator, and interestingly, they went to Philadelphia. The Eagles passing game coordinator, Christian Parker, is the new Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator. Matt, tell me all about Christian Parker, because I don't know a lot about him except for he was doing work with the Eagles defense.
And that's all I know, except all I can tell you is he comes from a good spot. Yeah, I mean, again, the Eagles, Fangio, are the best at doing this. I should have mentioned Cooper DeJean. So I would be pretty shocked if the Cowboys aren't in the market for an Emanwari, Cooper DeJean type dude early in the draft. But I know nothing except for he has good lineage on Mr. Parker.
Yeah, and the thing about Cooper DeJean is kind of in that role, right?
Yeah.
Outside, inside, safety, nickel, essentially
the blitz, just play the run.
4 big dudes and what, 7 nickels? Like that's
yeah. They can play. A lot of these guys can play man coverage against tight ends. Tight ends are a big deal now. So
like the nickel is the most important guy in your defense because the slot receiver gets targeted the most.
Yeah, it kind of is. There's a couple people that I really trusted. I listened to that are big, tape nerds, and they were breaking down the Texans defense and said, with all respect to Anderson and Stingley, Petrie's their most important guy. Like they would almost rather lose one of those dudes rather than Petrie because they'd have to play totally different. They live in nickel.
The Detroit Lions have made a hire at offensive coordinator. It looks like they are set to hire former Cardinals offensive coordinator Drew Petzing for the same role with the Detroit Lions there. And yeah, I wasn't super impressed with the offense. I didn't think it was necessarily on Petzing either, though, why things were failed and didn't go great for the Arizona Cardinals. So this is, we'll see how this goes. Obviously, the Lions are having a tough time, and we saw the Eagles go through this too, where you lose both your coordinators and you have a tough time trying to figure it out. Obviously, it wasn't going great with John Morton last year because Dan Campbell took over the play calling role and kind of see the writing on the wall. John Morton out, Drew Petzing in now for the Lions.
So I know this doesn't like super inspire Lions fans, and they're not doing jumping jacks about it, but I was pretty impressed with the Cardinals staff when they took over. Remember, they had no talent whatsoever. I mean, they took over a horrendous roster, and both sides of the ball, they did a lot of creative, innovative stuff to at least be competitive. Now, this past year didn't go well, but you look at the offense, they've one high-end offensive lineman in Paris Johnson. He missed a lot of time. They played with their backup journeyman quarterback. They went through running backs like it was crazy. I mean, they were overmatched. But I also didn't love how they've used Marvin Harrison over the years either. Like, Matt Harmon believes Marvin Harrison's much more CeeDee Lamb than he is George Pickens, like big slot. And they never use him that way. And maybe that's unfair because they get a lot out of Wilson and McBride, but I don't think it's a bad hire.
Yeah. Same conversation with Keon Coleman. It's like,
yeah. Harmon thinks the same thing.
So maybe new idea, and for Coleman, maybe a new location is what he needs. Speaking of the Buffalo Bills, their head coach search, I think, got a little bit weird this week, and 2 new candidates have come to the top as potential interviewees and potential hires for the Bills. And of course, we're making picks. We're previewing AFC, NFC championship games next. Today's episode of NFL Six Pack is brought to you by TurboTax. It's tax season, and look, tax season can be overwhelming for some folks, but it doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever just to hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s or self-employed forms. They work to get you every deduction, which is so key and so important, and get updates right there in the TurboTax app. And for a limited time, our listeners, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file your taxes last year, all you got to do is file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your TurboTax appointment today. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in and making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to remind everybody about the Everydayer Club. If you have not checked it out, and you are an everyday listener of the show, we appreciate you so much. You got to check out the Everydayer Club. Access to an ad-free audio feed for this program, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, every major podcast app, and an invite to a members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server. Tons of conversation happening throughout the NFL and every team and the NFL draft and college football and off-season. And it's a lot of fun there. And I've had fun jumping in on the Discord server, trying to get Williamson in on the Discord server as well.
Oh, I do that. Yeah.
It's a unique atmosphere on Discord, very different than some other social media stuff. And so all you got to do is go to NFL6pack.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. So, just a couple of real quick notes on some coaching interviews here that are fascinating. And obviously that I think Bills owner Terry Pegula kind of put his foot in his mouth a little bit, made Brandon Beane look bad as well. And you can kind of, everyone's all over Beane. I blame ownership a little more, but clearly there's something weird going on with Beane and, the blame game. And, I didn't really like this guy, but the coaching staff made this pick and they liked him. So I let them draft the guy that we didn't end up liking. How true that is, I don't know. People are trying to find receipts from comments that Brandon Beane made. I don't think that necessarily is a smoking gun either, because just because you said you like that a guy ran 4.57 and it wasn't fast, that maybe you get him. But that could mean maybe we get him in later, and maybe we didn't want to draft. It doesn't mean he's the number one guy on your board at the time. So
yeah.
A lot of people trying to dunk on Brandon Beane, but deservedly that brain trust getting some grief this week. And now, Matt, 2 new names have surfaced. Chargers fans, cover your ears, because you might not get Mike McDaniels, your offensive coordinator, because he's still going to interview for the Buffalo Bills job. So this is not done yet, even though there were reports that Mike McDaniels is going to go with Harbaugh to be the OC, and it's looking like Mike McDaniels like, okay, if I can go match up with a top quarterback, I'm going to do it. Probably rather be a head coach with Josh Allen, even though offensive coordinator with Justin Herbert is a nice fallback to have. And another name that I heard early on in the process was a possibility, and it was like, really? What about Phillip Rivers going from a high school coach to comeback kid in the NFL to head coach in the NFL? Phillip Rivers today, Friday, is interviewing for the Buffalo Bills head coach job.
Hey, I'm the biggest Rivers fan out there, but this sounds like hiring Jeff Saturday to me. I mean, like, this sounds crazy talk. I'm fine with McDaniel getting an interview. I mean, that lines up completely. And boy, him and Josh Allen together could be electric and exciting. They're familiar within the division. I still think he's better probably as a coordinator than a coach. I mean, the Chargers is a great landing spot for him, but this Rivers stuff to me is a bit of a red flag of maybe ownership doesn't really have a great grasp of what we're doing here. Picking Bean over McDermott was flag number one. Bringing in weird head coaching candidates is flag number two for me.
Something else we talked about off the air was, and something I didn't really realize until this week, is the Buffalo Sabres NHL hockey team is owned by the same guy.
Yeah.
And they are not well thought of. They're not a franchise in the NHL.
They're like, I know a lot more about football, obviously, but they're a lot like my Pirates. They're kind of one of the laughing stocks. It's not people I want to own in my team.
Okay. Real quick, there's 5 head coach jobs are down. The Tennessee Titans hired Robert Saleh, John Harbaugh to the New York Giants. Kevin Stefanski is head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Those guys are putting their staffs together. Jesse Minter, now the latest, he is head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. And we talked yesterday about, looks like a potential rebuild for Jeff Hafley and the head coach, and John Eric Sullivan, the new GM that came over from Green Bay as the new brain trust to run the Miami Dolphins. That leaves 5 NFL jobs still open: Buffalo Bills, Pittsburgh Steelers, Arizona Cardinals, Las Vegas Raiders, and Cleveland Browns. It feels like the Browns are really being used as a sort of a leverage piece, because Mike McDaniel, Minter, a bunch of coaches were like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll take an interview. Let's get that news out there. I'm going to interview for the Browns job. And then when it comes the day before the interview, like, you know what? Never mind. I'm good. I'm not going to actually go interview for that job. And so the Browns sitting there, trying to figure out what they're going to do. Nobody's talking about the Cardinals job. Like,
that's what I was saying. I was going to lead off by saying, you beat me to it. I was going to say the Browns and Cardinals might just get the scraps, and maybe the Raiders are in that same boat too. Side note: Mendoza officially declared today. That's makes that appealing, but that's about it. Mm-hmm. But boy, I think the Browns is as bad a job as you can think of.
Steelers. Where are we at with the Steelers, Matt? What are you hearing there? This is taking a while. Like they've had this opening for quite a bit, and I would think that they would have a better opportunity to find their guy than maybe the Cardinals or the Browns.
Yes, I think that Mike McCarthy, I think, is real. I mean, I think there's a chance that happens, but I really think they're waiting on a Ram. I think Shula is the leader in the clubhouse. I don't know if people know much about Shieldhouse, but he's also very much in the mix. I think that they're waiting for the Rams to get eliminated or get that bye week to really dig into those two. You could maybe pull off getting both, because Shieldhouse is not a coordinator.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I mean, to me, that would be really exciting.
Steelers fans are rooting for the Seahawks is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Let's get the Rams eliminated, but don't look too bad doing a coordinator.
Right. Yeah.
Don't get out coached. Right.
But I guess, you know what? There's that extra week in between where you can have those in-person interviews.
Yeah, they can actually.
You would just have to wait longer, but you could kind of know that you're going to hire somebody probably in that extra week, because I think, the NFL rules are that you can't actually have an in-person interview in that week off before the Super Bowl, even if you're playing in the Super Bowl.
So Shieldhouse has like 2 A's in his name, which is a real Pittsburghese thing, like Bill Carr.
Yinzer? Is that Yinzer?
Oh, that's Big Yinzer. So,
okay.
So I've been calling him Steelhouse. So that's instead of Shieldhouse, I'm going to call him Steelhouse. So
and then, young coach Shula, That does feel like a pretty good fit there.
Shula, Rooney. I mean,
yeah.
Chuck,
very familiar NFL royal family names.
They hired Chuck Noll off Shula's staff from the Colts a million years ago. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Next, let's figure out who's going to play in the Super Bowl, Matt. We've got the Patriots and Broncos in the AFC, the Rams and the Seahawks in the NFC. Preview, making picks. Championship Sunday. This episode of NFL Six Pack is brought to you by Game Time. You know me, and I've been talking about Game Time for a long time. And if you're a sports fan, if you are a fan of music, if you are a fan of comedy, and you ever go to any shows and you ever leave the house, what are you doing with your life if you don't have the Game Time app in your pocket and ready to go? Because, I mean, come on, being at the game live, the crowd noise, the energy, cheering alongside other fans, watching at home is great as well, but being in the stadium hits different. Frustrating part has always been getting tickets, waiting in queues, dealing with logins, and watching prices change right at checkout. That's why the Game Time app gives the advantage back to fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing tickets for NFL games, any sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, theater events, you name it, you can find it and get great experiences in just a few taps. And you can get some phenomenal deals on last-minute seats as well. I never buy a ticket to anything without checking the Game Time app first. You can find zone deals that stand out, and you pick the section. Game Time picks the seats to get even better savings. And, of course, fees included up front, so the price you see is the price you pay, no hidden fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today and get back to being there live. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Not many NFL playoff game days left, so you're going to want to get in on the action because FanDuel is in playoff mode, and every playoff game day in the NFL, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boosts give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels bigger in the playoffs, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. You can make your picks, then apply your profit boosts to go after even bigger payouts. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. All right, here we go. We've got championship games Sunday. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to start in the AFC with the Jarrett Stidham-led Broncos. Dare I say a revenge game against the team that drafted him in the New England Patriots. And it's easy to forget a long time ago that Stidham was a Patriot. He's got, 5 starts under his belt in the NFL, hasn't played in an NFL game aside from preseason in a few years. Is this the death knell? Is that it for the Broncos losing Bo Nix? And I mean, there has been a little whisper and some talk that, they can kind of try to do something, inject him and try to get Bo Nix out there, but it's going to be Jarrett Stidham against the New England Patriots. And it's a tough defense to play. And I will say this, and of course, this is the biggest factor in the game because if you're non-functional at quarterback, you're going to lose and you're going to go home, and that's going to be unfortunate. But I think there's sort of some growing sentiment out of Denver that they're very, and maybe this is just them talking themselves into it, but hearing some players talk, and I can't remember who it was. One of the, I think, defensive players was like, look, I mean, he's been a running scout team, and he's a better quarterback than some of the quarterbacks that our defense ends up facing on Sunday in the game. So if there's some truth to that, the Broncos aren't out of it. And I do think the Broncos aren't out of it. And in fact, Matt, when I look at this line, I was a little bit surprised. I thought I was going to see 7.5 points, 4.5. New England's favored by 4.5 points. So, the folks at FanDuel and the betting odds here, and we always go to FanDuel for our betting odds, they believe that this is not a gimme for the Patriots, even though the Broncos are without their starting quarterback in Bo Nix.
I couldn't agree more, and I'm actually picking the Broncos to win outright. I know that sounds crazy, but One note I make sure I mention on both these games is the home team. I know Seattle's record is not ridiculously good at home, but I still think both these places are really, really hard to play, especially Denver.
Broncos 8-1 at home. Patriots, though, 8-0 on the road.
Are they? I just think playing in that air, when your heart's beating a little faster with this much on the line, it's a young team, it can be eye-opening. And both home teams have an extra day rest, which I think is also important. But I just want to throw that out there. I agree that Stidham isn't the average backup. I've kind of been a fan. I can maybe make the argument he's one of the best 35, or so, that he could play for some teams, But a huge difference is the lack of running. Nix is a very, very good runner and a great athlete.
Getting out of trouble, he gets away from pressure really well.
That's what I was going to say. He's one of the best sack avoidance quarterbacks in the league, and Stidham's the opposite. And this is a fierce pass rush, especially with Barmore and Williams coming up the middle. They've been real blitz happy lately. They trust their corners. I don't think there's going to be a lot of points in this game, but I don't think Stidham's going to be non-functional, I think was the word you threw out there.
I agree there. I'm going the other way. I'm going to take the Patriots here because the number's not big enough. I thought this was going to be a line that got too big, and it'd be like, the Broncos at home, they're too good everywhere else, and he's going to be, fine at quarterback, even if he doesn't elevate, and that might be enough. But 4.5, I think that the Patriots should be favored in this football game, and you laid it out there. I think the pressure could potentially get to him. He's not recently battle tested in game situations, so might be a little bit harder to game plan for how he plays, though, too. So maybe even a slight advantage in some ways in Stidham, even though clearly they would rather not have.
That's kind of big. Coaches hate not when a lot of guys when they come off the bench like this, their first game's their best game.
Yeah. Right. Well, yeah. Right. Because you don't have enough on the immediate tape to okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. But in the end, I think that the Patriots defense is too good. They're going to get after Stidham, and it could be an ugly game, which is why you might want to lean toward the points. But I think in the end, this ends up similarly to what we saw last week, where the quarterback had a rough time against the New England Patriots defense, and they won by 8 or whatever. And so I think a very similar game, something like 20-13 type of a score, right? And so that's what I'm looking at for the New England Patriots to advance. And by the way, has there ever been an easier path to the Super Bowl than the Patriots, who had a historically easy schedule this year? Then they get the Chargers in the first round, who had no offensive line. Last week was their most difficult game as far as the playoffs, and that was a good win for them.
Stroud was horrendous.
But the quarterback was bad. Maybe part of that was because the defense played well.
Of course.
But Stroud, again, was, I think, a big factor in that. And then you get in the AFC Championship game, you play against a team that lost their quarterback at the end of the game. The week before.
It's as easy a path as I can remember. And I'm not taking anything away from the Patriots. They very well
could win the games that were on the schedule. That's all you have.
Right.
That's all you can do.
I was listening to Aaron Schatz, and he was honestly comparing it. He said it's much like the undefeated Dolphins team. Like, I'm not taking away from the perfect Dolphins team, but they had one of the easiest schedules in NFL history. like New England, and Schatz is a New England Patriot fan. He's like, this is one of the easiest teams have ever had to get to the Super Bowl, which I really believe.
How many players are left from the Dolphins team where they cheer
still do the champagne and all that stuff? I bet that party's getting a lot thinner.
Yeah, getting a lot thinner. Yeah. At some point, I was like, do we really want to die with this record? Or do we want to
I'm sick of seeing you guys every year.
Yeah. I wonder how they feel about that at the very end. But clearly they like having the record because they cheers it every year.
Super quick, though, on the other side of the ball, May's small hands in the pocket thing really worries me too, because I think Will Campbell's one of the most overrated players in the league, and I think their protection is problematic. And I think Surtain and those guys can shut down those receivers.
Is it oversimplifying saying that, okay, this game comes down to only two things and two things only? Stidham, can he keep his head above water as the backup quarterback playing in the AFC Championship game? And can Will Campbell block Nick Bonito?
I think there's a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
And I think Denver's going to be really aggressive on defense.
Okay. We've got the NFC Championship game. This game is going to be fun. I can't wait. It was, 38-37 last time these two teams played. They're familiar opponents. They're both very good teams, maybe the two best teams in the NFL this year. And they get to play against each other for the third time. And even if you go back to the last 4 meetings of these two teams, so the 2 regular season meetings the last 2 years between the Seahawks and the Rams, they have nearly identical. They're 2-2 split. They have nearly identical points and yards, like within 2 points and 5 yards.
Wow.
Like they are so even. I think the Seahawks are playing better. The Seahawks are obviously at home as well. They're favored by 2.5. I like the Seahawks by 3. So I am taking the Seattle Seahawks here. And maybe it's a little recency bias seeing what they did to the Niners twice in a row. But man, they looked really good. They're the best run defending team in the NFL, and they make life difficult for a quarterback, even though the quarterback on the other side is an MVP candidate.
I'm really struggling with my pick here. Like the other one, I'm gladly taking the points. I just think it's going to be like 17-16.
Yeah.
This one, I think the line's exactly where it should be. I don't think the Rams will be intimidated on the road. But one advantage I want to mention is Seattle's. I mentioned Aaron Schatz. They're number 2 in special teams DVOA, where the Rams are at the absolute bottom of the league. So that is big for me. And what I look at is a pretty even fight. I have great respect for the Rams offense, but a little more respect for Seattle's defense. The other side of the ball, I don't love how the Rams D has been playing, especially the back 7. But I also think there's some left tackle issues and no Charbonnet, and Darnold versus Stafford in a big game. I mean, that's not even close to me.
Darnold gets to change the entire conversation about his NFL career if he can win a big game like this and go to the Super Bowl.
Wig and I had this conversation too, that all these guys, like if Denver wins, no one's going to give Stidham any credit. They're going to be like, Sean Payton's one of the best coaches ever.
Right.
If the Rams win, Stafford, all of a sudden it's like, where is he in the best quarterbacks of all time? Darnold's like, can't win the big one. He sucks. I mean, like
Clint Kubiak gets all these interviews for head coach. And I'm thinking like, what? He'd be like the 10th guy that I would give credit to for what's going on with the Seattle Seahawks, right?
Yeah,
like it's all about the defense driven. And he's doing a fine job, but it's not like the offense is carrying the defense over there in Seattle either.
No.
And so, who gets credit? It's a big game for Darnold. You can't go out there and throw 3 interceptions or you're never going to beat the allegations.
Oh, and the last thing Wig brought up too is he compared May to Dan Marino. Like, might go to the Super Bowl in his second year and then vanish, or he might like win the Super Bowl in his second year, like Mahomes, and you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Are you okay? Are you on the? That's a pretty good path to be on. It's like
it's a good path to be on.
The floor is Dan Marino in this scenario.
My Mahomes or Marino, like that. I'll take either.
All right, so I've got the Seahawks.
I do
Matt
too.
Is taking the Seattle Seahawks. All right.
Yeah. Betting against Stafford is bothering me though.
Yeah, and again, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think these are both going to be close games in a very different fashion. I don't see the Rams putting up as many points against the Seahawks defense as they did the last time.
No.
That's the big key for me here with Seattle. But they do have a ton of weapons, and it's going to be a lot tougher to cover those guys than it was against the 49ers last week.
And Darnold didn't have to do much against the Niners. He had to go
bleak. He had to turn around and hand it off to Kenneth Walker, who had 3 touchdowns on the ground. Yeah.
I also think Smith-Njigba could blow up too.
Yeah, this is more. They're going to lean on Smith-Njigba a little bit more.
Yeah.
Darnold's going to have to make some throws.
Yeah.
Can't wait. We both got the Seahawks. I've got the Patriots. Matt has the Broncos. We'll be back Monday to break it all down, and we will know who will be playing in Super Bowl. I don't even know what Super Bowl we're on, Matt. What number are we on here? Super Bowl.
We're getting close to 60. I lost track so long ago.
I'm bad with Roman numerals too. But we'll find out who's in the next Super Bowl, and we'll probably have some more head coach hires on the NFL.
Senior Bowl week when we come back to it.
And Senior Bowl week as well. That's right. Got it all covered for you all off season long. And we're not forgetting about those teams that are in draft mode either on the NFL 6-pack.